So let's add async data to a single post here when we have a post ID. The special thing here is that we typically want to fetch data for just that single post. So let's first of all add a script section to that index.view file. In there, we can add async data. And as you learned, we can now use async data to use the callback and return the data, for example, within a timeout. So some async code which we use to simulate a HTTP request. And again, we will use real HTTP requests later. So now here, let's pass that context object again, and then that callback method or function we can execute. In the async data here, I again want to execute set timeout, and let's say we wait for 1 second. Let's say this is as long as it takes to get our data back. And again, this is just dummy code to simulate an asynchronous task. And after this 1 second, I'll execute the callback, pass null to indicate we got no error, and then pass our data. So a JavaScript object that will become or will be merged with our other component data if we had any. If we don't have any, it will be the entire component data we work with. And there I will add a loaded post. Now this is a single post, and of course we can take one of the posts from the loaded posts from the other pages, like this. However, this loaded post here probably has some different fields, because here we also need to have the date and the author. So we should also get this. So let's say besides title and preview text here, we also have the author, Maximilian maybe, so my name or your name, whatever you like. And we have the updated date, which just could be new date, which makes it the current date of today. But hey, we can change this later. For now, this is good. So now we got all these fields. We also will need a content because we only have the preview text. Now here we would have the full post content. Now to not bore you with me typing for 1 hour, I will simply enter some dummy text here, some dummy text, which is definitely not the preview text though. So this is what we'll output. Now we got this loaded post property available in the component because we're loading it in async data. That means that in our post body here, in the template, we can now access loaded post. Title, for example, we can print out last updated on loaded post updated date. We can here print out loaded post author. There we would have the content, so we have loaded post content. And now we're still not using the context, right? Now here, of course, we just have dummy data, so we don't need that. But let's actually output the context. Let's use it by simply, for now, outputting the entered route parameter as part of the title. Later, of course, we will not manipulate the data with that, but we will simply fetch the right data. So if we send a HTTP request to some API endpoint, we typically need to specify for which ID we want to get back data. And that ID could then be our route parameter. So for now, let's simply edit the title. I will add ID colon, and then here I want to output the ID before I close the brackets. And that ID here can be something I fetch from context, params, and then it's ID. Keep in mind, params on the context object gives us access to the same route params would do in other places, so outside of async data. But inside async data, this route params, inside async data, we can't use that because the component has not been created yet. This route has not been injected yet. Hence, we got the data on the context, and there params is a convenience object which holds all route parameters. The longer version would be context route params. This also exists. And on that route object, you got all the same properties you have on the this $sign route object in other places of the component. So I hope this is really clear. We just can't access this here, but we got the context which is provided by Next, which has all the information. So with that, we're outputting the ID as part of the title. Now let's check if that works. Let's save this and make sure that you save all files and then go back and click on a single post. It takes a second, and then we indeed load the post with all the async data and the ID. And I can prove this to you. If we go back and click on the second post, we actually output ID2 here. And this is how that works. This is how we can use the context object to get useful routing data or other information we might need. Feel free to console log it again to dig in and see what it has to offer. We'll also use other parts of it later in the course. And with that, we got the entire power we need to run code on the server for the first load, fetch data there, and then run it on the client for the subsequent navigation actions the user might do.